Well, you know what it's going to be, don't you? This last item, it's got to be Brexit, hasn't it? It's got to be Brexit. Doesn't it make you laugh? Oh, the European Union has three presidents, doesn't it? It has Jean-Claude Juncker, who's a Luxembourger, who's the president of the European Commission. It has Donald Tusk, who's Polish, who's the president of the European Council. Now, you may not even understand these differences. And it has David Sassoli, who's Italian, who's president of the European Parliament. The European Commission is a body of people appointed by the various 28 member states. Each one has a representative. But as commissioners, they're supposed to represent not the interests of their individual states, but the interests of the European Union as a whole. Okay, that's Jean-Claude Juncker's bunch. And he's been quite respectable. The European Council is a group of 28 nominated representatives of the various member states. Each has one. But in this council, they're supposed to represent the interests of their governments, not of the European Commission as a whole, but of their individual governments. The president there is Donald Tusk. He's a Pole. And then there's the European Parliament, which has all the elected members for the elections to the European Union, the multitude of them, hundreds of people, and the president of the European Parliament is an Italian guy called David Sassoli. So, 3 European presidents. Juncker is kind of remaining neutral European Commission president because, well, he has to make up for the Luxembourg Prime Minister, who was so astonishingly rude, such a brute of a man, such a nasty piece of work. So some Luxembourger has to be respectable, and Juncker does that. And then you have the 2 other presidents, one playing good cop, one playing bad cop. So David Sassoli, president of the European Parliament, plays good cop and is very considerate and thoughtful. And Donald Tusk, president of the European Council, is bad cop and is rude beyond comprehension. What did he say in that tweet? Yes. He said, what's at stake is not winning some stupid blame game. I mean, how rude. How rude. At stake is the future of Europe and the UK, as well as the security of the interests of our people. This is a tweet addressed to Boris Johnson. You don't want a deal, and you don't want an extension. You don't want to revoke. Quo vadis. Quo vadis is a famous Latin phrase. Where are you going? Quo vadis. God was supposed to have said it to Peter, Saint Peter, when he was walking away from Rome, when he was supposed to be martyred. So God made him turn around and go and face his martyrdom. So, yes, quo vadis. Donald Tusk is saying to Boris Johnson, quo vadis. Turn around, go face your martyrdom. And what's his martyrdom in Donald Tusk's eyes? It's a no-deal Brexit. Actually, no-deal Brexit, the only thing can save Boris Johnson. Well, I mean, given it's his stance, isn't it? But rude Donald Tusk. Compare him to the thoughtful and really very dignified Italian president of the European Parliament, David Sassoli, who said he gave a beautiful interview on British television, and he was in Italian, but it was translated, and he said one of the many beautiful things he said. I would have thought, this is Sassoli said this. I'm quoting. I would have thought that 30 years on from the collapse of the Berlin Wall, our destiny would not be to separate. Oh, beautiful words. I would have thought that 30 years on from the collapse of the Berlin Wall, our destiny would not be to separate. Yeah, a dignified man. What a great man. A considerate and thoughtful man, trying to move things forward in a considered way. And he makes you think. He makes you think. He has a point. I would have thought, too, that 30 years on from the collapse of the Berlin Wall, our destiny would not be to separate. It seems it is. The Conservatives are 6 points ahead of Labour in the latest opinion polls. That would give them an 8-seat majority in a general election. Enough. Well, better than they've got in the moment. Yes, so they're quite pleased and rubbing their hands at that. Which is the prospect. Any which way it's the prospect. And will we have a no-deal Brexit on Halloween? In just a couple of weeks away. I still think so. It seems impossible, doesn't it? Because Boris Johnson has committed to writing a letter presumably on October the 20th, because if there is no deal with the European Union by October 19th, then the British government has committed to writing a letter asking for an extension. But Boris Johnson is also saying there will be no extension. We will leave on October 31st. Conundrum? Not really. I mean, there are many ways he can engineer this. Obviously, and one notable way, I've said before, is to get his friend, the president of Hungary, to veto the extension. Theoretically, Britain could veto it itself. You know that, do you? I mean, you realise that. It only takes one member state, and it could be Britain, to veto the extension to a deal. Having asked for the extension, Britain can veto it. Or Hungary can do it for Britain, it is remotely possible that the British opposition will form a government and have a vote of national unity and vote out Boris Johnson in that small 10-day window between October 20th and October 31st or somewhere in there. It could happen. We'll see, shall we? Parliament's in recess at the moment for a new Queen's speech. It's fun, actually. It's a roller coaster and it's lots of fun. Let's see where we end up. You think we're going to suffer economically? I don't think we're going to suffer that much economically. We've rolled through it. Good heavens, we've been through wars and tragedies that are worse than this. The worst things have happened to Britain than a no-deal Brexit. No, we'll survive. But President Sassoli of the European Parliament, that Italian, was right when he said, I would have thought that 30 years on from the collapse of the Berlin Wall, our destiny would not be to separate. It is really a sadness in so many ways that it has come to this. But, gosh, the shenanigans. Well, you have to smile, I guess, don't you? You smile or weep. Anyway, and just good for the Middle East to know that that there are others in trouble, even back here in Britain. Okay, God bless you. That's enough for me from today. I mean, more than enough, really. All right, all the best. Signing off from Hala London Radio. God bless.